Hello and welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger. Joining me on the show today is Sean Kriletich. He's the director of Calaveras Grown and also serves as the marketing director. And he really does pretty much everything for the organization, brings a lot of people together. And you're doing great work out there, especially in response to the Butte fire. And I'm looking forward to letting the public know about this great work that you're doing. So thanks for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Joel.
Good to have you on the show. Before we get into Calaveras Grown, what it's doing, I'm hoping that you can just let the viewers get to know you a little bit. So let's go all the way back. Did you grow up here in Calaveras County?
Yep. So I grew up in Calaveras County, graduated from Calaveras High School. And grew up working on a pretty large cattle ranch for Jack and Ruth Cool over. Well, they had a bunch of different places, but their home was there between Valley Springs and Paloma on Paloma Road, and I actually grew up in Paloma. And, just grew up playing in these hills and enjoying this, all the open space and the beauty that we all share and hopefully can learn how to steward around here.
When you were in high school and you were kind of looking ahead at your future, what did you see yourself doing career-wise?
I maybe in high school, I honestly was pretty angry in high school, honestly, because I really felt like everything seemed so broken and just strange. Just like, why are we doing things this way? It didn't make any sense to me, and it still doesn't really make much sense to me. A lot of what goes on, but I've luckily been able to put aside that anger part of it, and so I think I can't even really. I don't know. I was probably all over the place in high school. I mean, in college, I didn't know. Maybe I thought I'd be like some sort of geologist. I got a degree in geology or work on some kind of physics project. But basically, I guess my story was I went away to college, and then I started actually fell in love with rock climbing in college and started going to Yosemite all the time, and just spent a bunch of summers up there through college and a little bit after. And then I went down to South America, and I really fell in love with the people living from the land down there and learned a lot from folks down there. And also just seeing that, we're using just a ridiculous amount of resources here and really not necessarily caring for the spaces that we're inhabiting in these rural areas. And so came back here and thought, well, I want to give it a try, see what it really means to be the one who takes the hits when you make mistakes, or when mountain lions eat your goats, or deer eat your garden, or whatever that is. And so that's what I've been doing for the last just over 10 years, is farming in Amador and Calaveras counties. And just really been enjoying that. Throughout that time, I've been keeping bees through that time too, and throughout that time I've actually been a director of Calaveras Grown. Pretty sure that through that whole period, was on the board of directors for most of that time, and just watched the organization grow and change and hopefully become more. What we've been working on for the last few years with the organization before the Butte fire was. And we're still is working on it, is trying to really offer services and help local producers figure out what we need to get more food production, to get more food and fiber and, or wine, whatever it is, these agricultural commodities, that make that a more easier thing to produce income with, and really just highlight Calaveras products produced in Calaveras County. And then the Butte fire happened, and so then we've taken action on that. And of course, there's a limited, while we've got a lot more volunteers with that for these work parties, we'll talk about. There's a limited, organizational capacity. So we are working within that too.
So back to Calaveras Grown, what was it about that organization that made you want to invest so much time being on the board and also, running it at this time? Was there a gap is that a niche that wasn't filled, and that's why you invested your time in that?
Yeah, I just see it as extremely important, the community aspect of it. A lot of people feel like, and I think I started out certainly thinking I could be maybe more independent than I realize that I can be now. And I think the fire is kind of a big equalizer in that way. So even if you're, thinking that you can be just out there on your own, producing all your own stuff, well, it's real, the fire can be a real game changer in all of that. And there's a lot of things that can be game changers in that. And I think we can't do it alone, and we also, alone, even if you could do it alone, you can't do it without the approval of the community to steward the land in a way that I think makes sense, and that that has a lot of historical and prehistorical basically precedence or history of working. Sorry. Oh, and why did I put this into all this energy into Calaveras Grown? I think Calaveras Grown products produced in Calaveras County. I mean, our agriculture here our economy here is two things really: agriculture and tourism. Mm-hmm. And both of those things rely to some extent on agriculture. If it was all houses up and down Highway 49, there's going to be a lot fewer tourists. And so managing the water is a huge part of agriculture, helping agriculture succeed economically, because that's a big part of it being sustainable, and working for our community. And so that's, I worked with years with Farms of Amador as well. With Motherlode Harvest, another organization that's actually a multi-farm CSA that distributes food and fiber products in Amador County, and then also just really organizations up and down Farms of Tuolumne. I haven't been on the board or anything like that, but worked with individuals from there, and so I think it's a solid concept for anybody who lives around here, actually. So
if you wanted to be involved in Calaveras Grown, is there some sort of a membership fee, and then you get listed on the website, you're included in networking, and you get promoted by the organization? Yeah. So we have 3 different levels of membership. The base, anybody can be a supporter member, and that's $20 a year. Basically, we'll list your name on the website as a supporter member. We are super appreciative of your support of the organization and the county's producers, and then and then there's a general member or a producer member, and that's a $50 a year membership fee. And then there's a whole packet of brochures and stickers and basically items that highlight your product as Calaveras Grown, add value to those products, and hopefully make them more saleable as a result. So those, and then the sustaining level or corporate level membership, which is $200 a year, and that's for larger organizations, and that might be there's some individuals as well. Actually, Couts Winery, for example, the hospital is another one. And we have a number of members. We've got and there is Mike Ray is
is another sustaining member of our organization. So you can join at those levels. To be a general member, you actually have to be either reside in or own land and be doing some kind of agriculture in the county, and that's a voting level membership that would vote on the board and possibly on other issues as they might arise.
What ballpark, how many members would you say the organization has?
Right now, actually, we have about 70 producer or general members, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 plus. You had certainly supporter members, and then a dozen or so sustaining members, but then really, so one of the big things that we've done recently with this Butte Fire thing was, we've got people from all over the world have been sending us resources in the form of money to do erosion control in the Butte Fire and work on restoration on what we've called our community and forest restoration program.
And I want to step back just for a minute because I really want to delve into that next topic. But Calaveras Grown, it seems to have this mission, and it's doing great work to bring people together and promote these products. And there's a sense of community there, especially if you go to the meetings. It's amazing the networking that goes on and the swapping of tips and tricks and all kinds of things. And it's like a big family, it seems like. But now with the Butte Fire, it seems like, in large part due to your leadership, the focus just went critical toward this other direction because it truly was an emergency. And so I was hoping you could kind of walk us through how this happened and how you brought the organization into this new direction. So first of all, when you first saw the smoke, which was actually very close to your property, right? What went through your mind, and then walk us through your involvement in actually the recovery.
Sure. So I guess when I first saw the smoke, actually, we were packing up to go. We were at my farm over in Amador County, Manzanita Ridge, and we were packing up to go to the Calaveras Grown farmers market here. And there's a smoke rising, and we go, oh, wow. And then about an hour or so later, it looked like they had gotten it mostly under control. And we left and started driving. You could see what was happening. It was contained to a couple acres. We went to the farmer's market, and by the time we got to the farmer's market, looking back, it looked like there was a giant mushroom cloud back towards the farm there. And so I was calling the neighbor there and making sure that it wasn't going that way. And fortunately for Amador County and very unfortunately for Calaveras County, the wind was blowing from the north. And so later went home, and that night for the next 3 or 4 nights, it was so bright there at the farm there in Amador that you could read a book outside with just the firelight. So it was intense, and just really feeling for the forest, feeling for all the beings that were being devastated by that huge catastrophe, and just seeing it consume so much area, and then really it wasn't until I knew that it seemed bad in terms of there was a severe fire, an intense severe fire, and so it didn't burn that long. It burned extremely hot and killed a lot of what was in its path. So I'm not really sure what the percentages might be, but it ended up burning 53,000 acres of private land and 71,000 acres in total. And that I just mentioned that now because that actually ends up playing a role. All that private land has played a role in why there hasn't been a huge response in the erosion and other aspects. But So just realized, wow, this is devastating. And so, a week into the fire, we knew that many homes had burned, lots of ranch land, lots of range land, many gardens, and had been consumed by the fire. And held a meeting actually at my parents' house in Paloma, and of the Calaveras Grown Board, and most of us were present at that meeting, and just really, what are we going to do as an organization to help our community members? Because maybe this isn't our direct focus, but if the whole county's charred, for example, which luckily didn't happen, no one's going to come here for tourism, and that's going to make doing agriculture very difficult. I mean, the fire at that point was moving towards, what has really been other than the rangeland and the ranching, the backbone of the sort of the cultivated agriculture is the vineyards around Murphy's, and so that is something we need to take action on. And we all use water, and the fire plays an enormous role in the water system, in the water cycle. And all this land that the fire burned over, plays an enormous role in that. And when the slopes are steep like they are in this fire, there's a lot of clay soil. A lot of that burns so hot that all the vegetation is black. And we see some beautiful areas where the grass has come back, where we had lower intensity fire, didn't burn up the seed bed. But anyways, to finish with how I got into it. So I just could kind of see all this happening in my mind's eye as the fire was burning, and was playing a physical role at some level in all that as well. And then we thought, well, the thing that we know about is soil and water, and the thing to do is start spreading straw and keeping the erosion under control. And then the other big thing is to keep the people here, to keep our community here. And so we're going to do that around people's homes, in the most critical area around people's homes. Hopefully their home is still there in a lot of cases. We've worked on, I believe it's at 47 different residences to date. It actually may be a few more than that. And so just showing the people too that the idea was to show people that we want you to stay here. We want to support you. We want to be there in your time of need. And maybe that's not considered the most critical thing. Yeah, they need shelter and all of this, but that's not what Calaveras Grown does. We don't build houses, and that's a critical need, and that's something that other community members can take. But we looked at what our role in the community was with knowing about soil and water and agriculture and hopefully caring for the forest, and chose to take a role in that. And so we basically your folks held a little, that was one of our first donations, so we basically started asking for donations, and they held a little gathering there at the Metzger farms, and donated, I think it was like $1,200, which was enough with some other money that we got to get the first load of rice straw. And since then, I'm not actually sure what the exact number is, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 have been donated towards this. And really a good percentage of that money is just from private donors, and from anywhere from $5 to $10,000. And then a lot of agencies and other community entities, Amador Community Foundation, Calaveras Community Foundation, have seen the value in this work that we're doing. which I guess maybe the viewers don't know about yet.
Well, why don't you walk us through what it is that you do when you go out to a property?
Yep. So basically, what Calaveras Grown ended up organizing was, I'll just say that we started with my work traders. So I being a farmer, I have basically apprentices working with me, and we went out on a few of these and did erosion control, and so basically spreading straw, doing contour tree falling, so falling trees if on very steep slopes on contour so that they act as water breaks, and connecting those with the land. And so working on usually very steep slopes, spreading straw. And then we realized quickly that we needed an army to do this. And so we started, calling for volunteers and got a bunch of volunteers. Started with just a handful of volunteers. Actually, some farmers from both Amador and Calaveras County came out on the first one. And then since then, we've had up to the 38 volunteers on a single place, basically spreading straw to keep the soil from washing away, to allow the water to percolate into the soil, to recharge the aquifer, and to get the forest to come back as quickly as it can, or the grassland, depending on what the property owner is looking for. Working on roadways, doing a lot of work to mitigate erosion and damage from erosion on roadways, because without access you can't do anything. And then the other thing we've been doing is repairing wells. So doing done I believe 11 well repairs to date. So actually repairing the head, doing any number of functions to reestablish the well after it's been burned over, because of course water is critical to, whether you're just staying there or you're trying to farm something or have animals. Water is a critical aspect to life. And so it's been amazing for me to see the group of volunteers, and especially the core volunteers that have come together in this, and see these people who I didn't previously know in the community, having grown up here. I mean, I know a fair number of folks around here, and so it's really become a tight group, and that of maybe a dozen people that come out just about every time. And then there's anywhere from 10 to 20 or 30 more folks that'll come out from time to time. There's really a list of around 100 people that are being notified when we're going out to work. And that brings me to, this is something that actually, when a fire like this happens in higher elevation on public lands, there's actually a lot of resources get deployed to mitigate the damage, because it's known that we don't want all those contaminants. Even just the dirt is a contaminant in the surface water system. We don't want that getting into our reservoirs. We don't want our soil washing away. But the thing is that both this and the Valley Fire over in Lake County that burned at the same time are historic in the way that they are, just the amount of private land that was consumed by these fires. And so there's really no historical precedent to care for this land. You'll see some work being done, and BLM got about $3.5 million to work on 1,200 of their 12,000 acres of land that burned. So to treat 10% of the worst affected land, they got $3.5 million. That's for 1,200 acres, right? And we've got 58,000 acres, or say only 20% of that is severely burnt. Well, it's still looking at 11,000 acres of severely burnt land that affects not only us, but the Stockton East Water District, the city of Stockton, and the East Bay Municipal Utility District, and therefore Oakland, Berkeley, all the East Bay there that's serviced by the McQuallamy River system. And I think actually that's one of the exciting things about, to me, the CCWD also contributed to the work that we're doing. But the most exciting one was both the city of Stockton and the Stockton East Water District contributing to the Calaveras Grown efforts here with the erosion control, because that shows, look, this matters to us too. And they gave $10,000 each, which in the scheme of things is a token amount. But I think it's an important beginning to a conversation about really we're providing this watershed. All this private land is providing this watershed that the rest of the state needs, and the rest of the state is utilizing, and without which, or if that becomes contaminated, then we're, it doesn't really matter whether you care about the environment or not, the economy's going to fail. And I think that here in California, if we let the economy fail or we let the environment fail in our rural areas, which, a fire of this magnitude, I look at it as really I'm part of a community failure. I view this as a personal failure of us to take care of this place. And I'm as responsible, maybe more responsible than others, because I understood that we were failing.
In the minute we have left, do you want to leave the viewers with anything?
Yep, so we're still at it. If you'd like to work on one of these work parties with us, we'd love to have you out there. And so you can contact us at info@calaverasgrown.org, or call the number on the screen, or look it up on the website. I'd encourage all of you to join Calaveras Grown and become part of a community supporting itself, helping ourselves get to a better place as a community, a more beautiful place, and a more, where we have some economic viability as well.
Sean, thank you for the hard work that you put in personally, and all of the volunteers, and keep up the good work. And thanks for bringing some hope back into people's lives.
Thanks, Joe.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I hope you join me next time.